Yeah, it's going up this week, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to marry that yesterday. Oh, fuck. Kendall, use the toilet paper. We're out. Are you our one viewer?
Yes.
Kenny, you want to do me a favor real quick?
So that's the shows up.
Want to do me a favor real quick, Kenny?
What?
Plug in my laptop.
No.
I said please.
No, you didn't.
Please.
Thank you, Daddy. I love you, Mommy. I love you, Daddy.
Love you too. Love you, Mommy. I love you, Daddy. Ow!
That's adorable. Why do you hate me? Okay. This shit's out. What's wrong with you?
Nothing? The fuck is wrong with you?
Your face?
Go to hell, Ralph.
You go to hell. You go to hell or you die.
Why the fuck are you staring at me?
I think this is the point where we wonder if your friend's gonna follow or not.
Fuck you. What are those? Alright, whatever.
I'm recording, I'm just waiting for the clap.
My free upgrade to Windows 10. Dude.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Dirty Shore Underground. Tonight's bonus episode, 6, Walking Dead.
Yes, indeed. Make sure you check out DirtyShoreUnderground.com. New episodes of this podcast every Thursday. Bonus episodes Monday or Tuesday, whenever we get around to doing them. Episodes of the The Anthem podcast every Tuesday. Make sure you check out otheanthem.com. We are live streaming, as always, on YouTube. Make sure you check out youtube.com/C/DirtyShoreUG-OTA. Make sure you're following Dirty Shore UG on Facebook and Twitter. We tweet out the link to the live stream so you can join in the conversation during all the podcasts and even the live show, or during the Thursday show and during the bonus episodes, so you can become part of the conversation. We can see your comments live and react to them, and we share them while we're doing it. As always, spoiler alert, we're going to be discussing Season 6, Episode 6 of The Walking Dead. We are also going to discuss previous episodes from this season, maybe some Fear the Walking Dead, maybe some previous episodes of The Walking Dead from seasons 1 through 5, and maybe some of the stuff out of the comics even. So if you haven't read up to the end of the third companion, is that what it is?
Second one.
The second. Then some spoiler alerts for that too. So if you haven't seen any of that stuff, shut her on down here, go check it out, and then come back. That being said, so episode 6. Not a bad episode. A little, what do you want to say? Not action heavy, not even zombie heavy.
It was somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. Not Morgan. It wasn't episode 4.
It's centered heavily around Daryl, which I enjoyed.
Right, and I feel like we haven't seen a lot of Daryl this season, so it was nice to kind of have a lot of Daryl. And it's a lot of the tweets that were, while it was going live, was like, oh God, he's shot. Yes, please take off the shirt. And I'm like, come on, guys. He's in a cutoff all the time. Like, what more do you want? You alright there, Killer?
It's not letting me log in.
Anyway, that was one of my first thoughts when I seen the bike go down.
And we saw it in the preview last week. And like, oh God, what's going to happen?
I thought he was shot.
So, so jumping right in there, who is it that shot up Sasha, Abraham, and Daryl? Who do you think?
There's only 2 groups it could be.
Well, and for those of you who have read the comics, you probably know that as we get towards the end of Alexandria, there are 2 other groups that are kind of involved here. One we've seen a little bit of, the Wolves. Mm-hmm. Those are the guys with the W's on their forehead.
Which I think they actually come in after what I have.
Right, yeah. And the second group
is the Saviors, which
right.
is in the ones I have.
Right. So, I don't want to give too much away because honestly I haven't read the books, but my understanding is that the Saviors are the Wolves are kind of like feral and wild, and they're just kind of like loosely affiliated. There's a leader, but for the most part it's like, for those StarCraft nerds out there, that it's a lot like, did you ever play StarCraft? Mm-hmm. Alright, so it's like the Zerg are the Wolves, and the Protoss are like the Saviors, and the Terrans are our group, where like highly sophisticated, really strong structure for the Saviors. The Wolves are like, there's a leader, and then a bunch of followers, and everybody else is kind of wild for the Wolves. And then the Terrans are, there's a lot of personalities, there's a lot going on with our crew that we follow with The Walking Dead. So, what's your thought about who it was that they came through?
I don't want to say it's the Wolves. I think it's going to end up being the Saviors. And I think it's going to end up being something where our group gets trapped right in the middle of a conflict between the other 2 groups.
Yeah.
And shit goes to hell.
Well, and I was going to say, the other part is, seeing the comics doesn't necessarily help you.
No.
Because Glenn disappearing didn't happen in the comics. Glenn's been... I was going to say, that's something that happens later on, and not under the same terms that it happens in the comics. Daryl doesn't exist in the comics. Mm-hmm. Rick doesn't have his right hand in the comic, or his left hand in the comics. So, I mean, like, not knowing, or knowing the comics doesn't necessarily help you. I think it's worked as a good guide about what's going to happen as we move forward, but...
we always know where they're going. We just don't know how they're getting there or who's going to be alive when they get there.
And they're still making the comics, so obviously... but I feel like they're making the comics at a slower rate than they're making the show.
Yeah,
so at some point we're going to catch up.
I remember Kirkman said he didn't want to see Negan until like season 10
Right.
because he didn't want to jump around. He wanted the story to be told in more detail, and then now they're just.
Well, and I think that there's a lot of. The problem was, I don't know that everybody was interested in the characters the way that he thought that they would be. We have our favorites. Oh, hey. We have our favorites. So, like, Daryl only stuck around because he was a fan favorite. And, so he's kind of at the will of the fans. And, things that comic book readers like aren't necessarily the things that the show watchers like. So you kind of have to let that determine where you go and what you do. Mm-hmm. But I would say that I think the Wolves, it'd be rough to say that it's the Wolves. The Wolves haven't used guns as far as we've seen thus far. They don't have a lot of organization. It's a like, point that direction. You go there.
I'm not even sure they had vehicles.
Right, we didn't see it.
Other than the truck that they ran into the church.
And again, that was a point it in that direction and go. Less the whole setup and ambush style. Mm-hmm. And a thing I love about the show is that I went back and watched the second time, and the cowboy whose name escapes me. The cowboy whose name escapes me, who Daryl ends up trapping in. I think this is the second time we've seen somebody use a zombie as a trap. Where like they make a noise, the person walks in a direction, zombie grabs them. His hair was over his forehead, so we couldn't see if he had a W or not. Didn't look like a starving wolf. Guy was kind of heavy set, and he had the cowboy boots on, and he was rocking the look. But I think what I took from it at the end was the ambush that Daryl and Sasha and Abraham ran into was meant for the guy I'm going to call Dwight, Tina, and the girl who is unnamed at this point, but
and will remain unnamed.
At least at this point, we don't know who she is. So, but I heard some things around that her name might be Cheryl, and that's from people who read the comic books, because again, for people who haven't read the comics, at some point Negan let a girl go because his big deal is no rape. And women stay there willingly, and you can willingly trade your body to stay, and he has a lot of wives or whatever, but at one point a girl leaves, and they're telling a story about a girl who left, and her name is Cheryl, and that's why I think that people are calling her Cheryl at least, but anyway, but it's very sophisticated. It doesn't seem very wolf-like. The whole ambush doesn't seem very wolf-like, so my guess is that this is their introduction to the Saviors. And I think, and I guess we'll get into it, but I think that what we're setting up is, we know the Wolves, we're meeting the Saviors. This season 6, 2016 will be what's going to happen with these two groups. And season 6, 2015 is going to be solved by other stuff that we saw this episode. Number one, Patty, which I didn't figure out until my second watching of the episode, is actually the name of the fucking fuel truck. Did you pick that up? So, the first time I'm like, fucking Patty. And then when they come out to the fence and they see that everything's taken over, and I'm like, hey, go look for her. She could still be in there. And then when I did, on second watching, I saw that the Patty was the name of the truck, and I'm like, oh, fuck, so they could see from the outside that it wasn't in there anymore. So, what do you think's the deal with the truck?
I think that was their getaway vehicle.
That it? Is that what you think?
I think they also probably had their stash in there.
Yeah.
And while most of the seasons thus far took place over one day, now we're seeing it's the following day.
Right.
So next week when we come into it, it's going to be the following day. I think the guys are going to get back to Alexandria, and then hopefully shit will hit the fan, and they'll do a long, maybe give us an hour and a half for the mid-season finale, and leave us hanging for 2 months.
Well, I think Daryl learned an important lesson. And maybe it's something that they knew, and it's something we've heard before, but not something I really had thought about. And that's when you set a fire, zombies are attracted to the fire. The sound, the heat, and the light. So what we heard from Tina and Dwight and Cheryl was that they'd set a big portion of the forest on fire to draw the zombies in. They burned up as we saw from some of them, doesn't kill them. Especially Tina's, I guess, uncle and aunt. Is that who they were? Which, again, I fucking love this show. The greenhouse melts. It wraps them in glass, but doesn't kill them. And then they come back and kill their niece or whatever. But that was amazing. But charred zombies laying in the forest floor, still alive. Fucking fantastic. But so it doesn't kill them, but obviously it's slows them down, burns flesh away. It means they can't move. Sounds like a good way to handle a horde of zombies that are.
What about that one walker last night that was damn near a skeleton?
The swamp thing?
Yeah.
The swamp thing zombie, yeah. Now, and something I read today that I didn't pick up on is, did you notice the flower that was growing out of it?
No, I didn't.
Okay, it's the same flower that Daryl gives to Carol in season 4. It's like the lily of the valley or the heart of the valley or something like that. And somebody made a reference to it on one of the things that I read, and I'm like, I think that's a real deep pull. But that's, again, the thing I love about this show is that the producers are like, well, okay, we made this Swamp Thing zombie. You know what? Let's put a flower on there. Daryl's killing this zombie, and it's got a, I need to stay alive so I can get back to Alexandria, and Carol, and the flower, and she's turning into a little badass, even though he doesn't know it yet. But, so, now they have this fuel truck, supposedly, I would assume, full of fuel, which will help them hopefully take care of the horde problem, which would otherwise be a big issue. Any other thoughts about Daryl? We were talking before we started here about Daryl is the nicest guy in the world. He looks like the toughest guy in the world, but he really is the nicest guy in the world. I'm going to put it to you. You get held hostage. They tie you up. They drag you along. Gun in your face. If you talk, I'm going to shoot you. You get away. You figure out that the girl collapsed because she needs insulin, and you have the insulin. Do you go back?
I don't think I would have. Not in the zombie apocalypse.
Just say, fuck her, she's out? And I gotta... I get why he did it, and I can't say I might have gone back, but fuck rescuing him. Here's your insulin. Give me the gun. Here's your insulin. Peace. I'm out. You know, I don't care who these guys are. I'm getting out of here. You guys fend for yourself.
And now they got a sweet ass bike.
And something else I read online today is they kidnapped, one of the main characters got kidnapped, and it wasn't Daryl. That crossbow is almost a character on the show. He's had it since season 1.
Mm-hmm.
So now, I mean, the question is whether or not he gets it back.
Or gets another one.
Or does he get it back?
I remember at one point they had a couple crossbows.
Yeah.
You would see more than one, but he always had used the same one.
That was his. He always had it on. It was never mixed in a bag or anything. So, nice guys finish last. Makes a mistake. Trusts the wrong person.
I think when if I had been in Daryl's shoes with shooting the zombie,
yeah,
I don't think I would have wasted time pulling the fucking trying to get the thing out of the bag. I would have just pulled the trigger and hoped that
it went out
up coming out of the bag.
Yeah. Also, I felt like those guys were carrying nothing on them. Like, literally nothing. Because all that was in the bag was the insulin, his crossbow. That was it. And I guess his knife. Because then later on he puts the knife back in. But the other thing I missed, and I missed the second time too, what do they throw at him when they get on the bike?
It was bandages. Told him to patch yourself up.
Oh, okay. Because I just saw the white, and I was like, did she say sandwiches? Because it didn't look like it was sandwiches. Bandages, because he was still bleeding from the thing before. What was the thing on the ground? Looked like a motorcycle rider, didn't it? It had the rider's helmet on, and the body was all burned up.
And the head was just moving ever so slightly.
Okay, so did you notice anything that would have given away the truck in that moment?
No.
I was trying to figure out like how anybody would figure out about the truck. And the motorcycle rider did nothing for me. Then he goes down and sweeps it away and sees the thing, and I still got nothing. But when I watched it the second time, I realized that he fell down right there, and I think he realized that when he fell down, he was laying on metal, not on dirt. And that's what I don't know that I'd still look for the truck, but whatever.
Well, he is a tracker, so.
That's true too. And what does Sasha say? What's the best way? The best way to find a tracker?
He stays still.
Stay put and let him find you. Yeah. So, I guess we'll get to Sasha and Abraham in a little bit, but I guess the only other thing is just who was in the truck. That's the question. If Dwight and Cheryl and Tina hid the truck, who was in the truck? Because there was a zombie in the truck when he opened the door. The person who apparently had moved the truck to where it was.
Somebody from the Saviors, maybe?
Maybe trying to get the truck back.
Got bit somewhere along the line.
Or died from the heat from the fire, maybe. But I guess if the heat from the fire killed him, it probably would have blown up the truck.
Although it's hard to say because the truck looked like it was stashed.
Yeah.
To begin with.
Yeah.
Like Daryl did with the bike in the beginning of the episode.
Right, just put the leaves over top of it. And here's a rule for the zombie apocalypse. If you meet people for the first time, never walk in front of them.
Nope.
Because when you walk in front of them, they will probably try to jack your shit. And that's what they did. He not only took the gun from them, he handed it back to the guy, and then the guy used it to fucking rob him. What an asshole.
He should have just let him run right towards the group, and while he split the opposite direction.
Yeah. The other thing I'll tell you is that bike that he had a little bit of trouble starting it when they first gave it to him, and that's because it's not a fucking Suzuki. It's not a Ducati. You can't just like flip, boom. Like, it's an old school bike. You got to put some effort into it, and you got to know how to start it. So it was a little beyond belief that this guy who just picked up this bike for the first time would be able to start it. But nonetheless,
You know what I think Daryl was trying to do? Recruit them.
oh yeah, no, he absolutely was. He was trying to get him to come back because the other thing I noticed is he gave them the 3-question test, and they passed the 3-question test. And you know, Daryl can't even pass the 3-question test, which is weird. He gives this test to people, but he can't even pass it himself. And I guess, I mean, what would he say about that?
I don't know if there's any right or wrong answers to the questions, though.
I guess it's your attitude.
Although I laughed when the guy said all he killed was about a dozen or so. I'm like, is that it?
Right. He seemed to think it was a lot, but I guess maybe.
No offense, I'm pretty sure half the burnt zombies on the floor were a dozen or so.
They were still alive.
Which one? No, the ones on the 4th floor were all still alive. Yeah, they just burned them so that they can't. They're bones, so they can't move. Like the one that was laying next to
Well,
Daryl.
they might as well be dead at that point.
No, got to go around and hit them all. See what happens. Tina is a perfect example. They were taken out, but when she leaned down to cry, got her. That's why you got it in the head, double tap every time. But yeah, I think he was trying to recruit them. They passed the test. And I think it's for Daryl, it's all about the attitude about that question about human beings. Like once you do that, you can't go back. And Daryl, I think, even though he has killed people, his has been do or die. Like if you're gonna kill me, I'm gonna kill you. But I would never just do it to do it. So I guess we'll see. I don't think we've seen the end of Dwight and Cheryl.
No.
I'm pretty sure they're coming back. Which leads to the interesting question: who was on the radio at the end of the episode?
I don't know. I haven't really heard the voice.
I listened to it. I kept hitting 30-second back, 30-second back, 30-second back, 30-second back, and just listening over and over again. And everybody was erupting on Twitter saying, "It's Glenn, it's Glenn, it's Glenn." And people started putting hashtag Glenn's not dead, which by the way we started. Hashtag Glenn's not dead. But it wasn't Glenn. It sounded,
to me, it sounded like a zombie.
well, no, and zombies don't talk. But it said
I didn't really hear it say anything. Though.
Oh no, the very first time it was just like the second time it said help. Help. It didn't sound like Glenn at all.
But Dwight didn't have
He did. Because he took the bag that had Daryl's radio.
I'm pretty sure Daryl still had his.
No. The radio that Daryl had was the one that Abraham had. So now Daryl has Abraham and Sasha's radio. The Dwight has Daryl's radio. So the question is whether or not Dwight, I think it's Dwight, is about to stumble into some bullshit with, hey buddy.
They could play that either way though.
They could,
Maybe that's why they didn't do the sound,
yeah,
so you could really hear who it was.
yeah.
But with the zombies in the background, that could have been Glenn underneath the trash can.
And the rumor is that we're going to find out about Glenn in episode 7. So, we'll see. I still maintain hashtag Glenn's not dead. Until I see proof of life or proof of death, Glenn is still alive. But I guess right now he's Schrodinger's Glenn. He's both alive and dead until we get confirmation. So, but getting to the other side of that equation is the Sasha Ham or Abraha, depending on how you want to look at it. A little bit of romantic and sexual tension in the zombie aquarium room, if you want to say that. So, I've heard from people that like intense situations like that cause a lot of sexual tension. So like they're in the car, they're running from the ambush, they pop out and just light those guys up in the car. And Abraham like wants to go over and finish that job up, and she stops him. And they have like that moment where he's like rebelling against her. What's that? What?
Run a center.
Ah. But he has that moment where he's like rebelling against her, and that was kind of like the first half of their little adventure together.
Yeah,
it was like
originally she snapped, and now he's like in his snap moment.
yeah, and just like bitch, don't tell me what to do. Like basically, the first half of them is like I'm gonna go finish him off. Don't need to do that. And then later on, he sees a zombie, and he like pulls out the knife, and she's like, we don't need to do that. And then, sleep or watch.
She didn't want to leave a trail for somebody other than...
Well, it's very clear when you see a zombie with a knife wound in the head that there are humans around. But Dixon on the wall means nothing to anybody. I mean, she's being smart. I think everybody would agree that. And I think, what is it that changes his perspective? What happens?
I'm not really sure. I think it was just him sitting there staring at the zombie on the fence over the edge.
I think it
I think he go ahead. Go ahead.
I think it had to do with all the military stuff.
Seeing the family in the pictures. I said the same. I had the same thought. It just said he sees the family and he's been military and he's used that.
You gotta figure he lost his family.
Did he have a family? That's what I was thinking too.
In the beginning, he had a wife and I think a son and a daughter. And remember, he freaked out on one of the zombies and she took him and left, and he walked outside and found him dead in the
That's
bushes.
right. Yeah, that's right. And then that's when he lost his shit until he found.
And he was gonna kill himself until Eugene gave him purpose.
All that hair game.
Hair game. But no, so I see that he sees those pictures. And he's like, I've been kind of living for the moment, but maybe I had this, I could have it again. And he has that moment, and he's like, and here's, I'm just going to throw it out there. I think that he's fucking Rosita because she's a hot piece of ass. And it doesn't really mean anything, it's just fucking that. And she kind of takes his shit. Like, she just lets him do whatever he wants to do. And Sasha is the first woman that's been like, yo, cut the shit. Let's go. And he likes that. And at the same time, he's seeing these pictures of this house, and he's like, this is the kind of woman I would be with. Instead of just fucking her, this is the kind of woman I could be with. And I gotta say, Abram's having a bit of a Rob moment, if I can say that. Because this is why I say it. Because what he says is, I got some business I gotta take care of. Which has to be him saying, I gotta break things off with Rosita when I get back. So he doesn't say, I have a girlfriend I gotta end it with. He's like, I got some business I gotta take care of. And he's just basically like, yo, you and me, let's do this thing. And she's like, why would you even think I'd be interested? And he's like, a man knows. And she doesn't fucking say no. She doesn't say no. She turns to the window. But, again, keeping the timeline is important. In the last few weeks, she has lost her, I don't think it was her husband, but her partner, her lover, whatever it is, and her brother.
Bob's Burgers.
Bob's Burgers, yes. But, and then she also lost her brother. And, wait, was Bob her brother? Bob was her brother.
Bob was her boyfriend,
Tyrese was her. So she lost both of them, and he's just straight up like, I'm gonna fuck you through that window overlooking the zombie apocalypse. And she doesn't say no. She's like, all right, big boy. And like, it's just cool. It's great. That is a Rob move. Rob would also grow out the fucking Fu Manchu during the zombie apocalypse. I'd be shaving in the middle and let that shit grow out. I got a decent little beard going on right now for November. Right? It's good luck, right? Don't hate.
Gray
Anyway.
hair's starting to show.
Do you see the gray hair mixed
Yeah.
into it? Fuck, I know I'm getting so old. God, again, I'm getting gray hair in my beard. None in the head, but the beard is definitely getting gray.
Wait, are you older than Kenny?
Yeah. Be 32. Coming up on 32.
Yeah, it's got to be by almost 3 years.
God damn it. Anyway, so, but he goes up to the roof and he has this moment. Any thoughts?
I like the scene on the bridge where he found the RPGs and he was looking around and he seen it was on his shoulder. He's just like, mother. I was hoping he'd say mother dick again, to be honest with you.
What does he call the guy when, like, he gets off the thing? He calls the zombie a name, and I can't remember what it is now. It's not Mother Dick. It's something else.
I can't even remember.
Fuck. But yeah, this was a good episode for Abraham sayings because he's just like, unfinished business is like an itchy ass, and then 2 minutes later he's like, let's do this thing.
No,
I'm like,
loose ends make my ass itch.
there you go. But it's so good. Because then like 2 minutes later, he's like, let's fuck. So he talks about an itchy ass on the way into the let's fuck conversation. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
I think his frustrations with that zombie trying to get the RPG and all the frustrations going on around him, obviously he snapped a little bit. And then the zombie just kind of... And the RPG, luckily enough, just hanging on the fence afterwards.
Because the strap wasn't deteriorating.
But he gets in that screaming match, and he's just like... "Dah!"
Finally let it all out.
I was going to say, and is that what that was?
I
He
think that's
finally
what it
just
was.
let it go? And for
I
those
thought he let it go on Eugene.
Well, and
That's just because he was pissed at Eugene. for
Yeah.
lying.
And that was, I think, specifically Eugene anger. It was, I've been doing this whole fucking thing for you, and it was all pointless. I'm pissed at Eugene. This was all of the other stuff that's been going on the whole time.
Mhm.
And for those of you who don't know, he was smoking if you like Cuban cigars, he was smoking a decent Cuban cigar. That's what it was. I don't particularly like Cuban cigars. I like Peruvian cigars, but nonetheless. So he was, what? Cuban cigars aren't that good. People like them, but I think they like them because they're rare. I don't think they taste that good. I think Peruvian cigars taste better.
I don't know. I've never smoked one.
Never smoked a cigar?
I smoked a cigarello and I almost threw up.
You can't inhale it. It's just, you keep it in your mouth. Keep it in your mouth. Don't inhale it to the lungs. Anyway, so he kicks back and he relaxes. He screams at the zombie, which, by the way, I gotta say, is he on a bridge?
Yeah, it was a bridge.
I thought he was on a bridge too, but then people were saying he was just on the roof of the building.
No, because there's.
How would there have been a truck on
Yeah,
the
that-
roof of the
That's what I
building?
was trying
The Hummer
to
was
figure
right
out.
behind him.
But I was just like, there's no way he was on a roof because there was a truck there. But then people were saying he was on the roof. So anyway, so we can agree he wasn't on a roof.
Yeah.
The roof.
No,
He was somewhere else.
on a bridge.
Okay. So nonetheless, so he goes for a walk. He finds a thing, screams at the zombie, and finally just lets that shit go and relaxes. Smokes a Cuban, and zombie, teaching him a little patience. If
Was
he
he
just waits.
actually smoking it?
Yeah, no.
I thought he was just chewing on the end of it.
That was he took one out, and put it in his mouth, and then saw the RPG hanging from the zombie's shoulder, and was like mother dick or whatever it was that he called the guy. Sat the gun down, and he could have shot him. I guess he chose not to because he didn't want to make noise, and then instead screamed at the top of his lungs at the zombie, which I think doesn't serve any point. Anyway, and goes back and sits down and he lights it while he's looking at him. And that's when he called him whatever name I'm trying to think of that I thought was really funny. And sits down next to the RPG box smoking the cigar. And by the way, you can use an RPG without the launcher. You just bang it and throw it. It just doesn't go as far. But and then life teaches him a little patience. The body falls through. Shaking it, I guess, was just enough that the body falls
What
through.
season is it?
6-6. It's 606 is what you want. Body falls through, leaving the RPG, and then what I was telling somebody today is when he comes back in to see Sasha, he looks like a kid on Christmas. He's got a cigar in his mouth, he's got the fucking RPG on one shoulder, the M16 on the other shoulder, and a box full of RPG shells. And he's like, oh my god, yeah, I'm good. And did you notice that the zombie in the little aquarium office got quiet at some points?
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to figure out why that was. I mean, obviously it's because they wanted to talk and whatever, but it was like he calmed down right at the right times. But anyway,
Maybe zombies get tired too.
well, but I think if I can be so bold, I sense that there is going to be a plan to deal with the horde that involves Daryl's truck and Abrams' RPG, and I am super excited about it because I feel like so the RPG they used was a real RPG. It had been propatized by a company and they rented it, but it was a real RPG. And I have a feeling that we are going to see like a fantastic special effects explosion of a truck blowing up from an RPG.
Now, if only they still had the damn things in the quarry. Would have made it a little.
Oh, if it was all of them were in the quarry, they could just burn the fucking thing up. Yeah, but anyway, so where we are now is, let's try to backtrack for the whole thing. Everyone except for Daryl, Abraham, and Sasha is back, and they're on their way back. Well, except for
The people who
Nicholas,
died.
Nicholas and Glenn. Nick's dead. We know that. They don't know that. Glenn is not dead, as far as we know. They don't know that. But everyone else is back at Alexandria. We've met the wolves, but they have run away. We've met what we think is the saviors, but they're not. Do you think they know about Alexandria?
I don't think that they probably do at this point.
Yeah.
I know they're in for a world of shit though, because all those
That's
zombies that were right behind them.
I was gonna say best defense system. Really, if you, again, is it Rick that says that we got the best defense system?
Mm-hmm.
Just 3,000 zombies around the walls. So I mean, really, the question is this: if Daryl and Sasha and Abram are headed back, and Glenn's got to get back eventually, how the fuck are they gonna get back into Alexandria?
Tunnel that.
Wait, because they tried to get through, and the zombies found that place.
Well, there wasn't such a high number right there that they couldn't get through.
I guess the question is, where does that let in? Is it like walls, and then, or is the tunnel let out further away from the walls where they could get through? So I guess that's one place, and that's only if they know about it. Otherwise, if there is really a ring around all of Alexandria,
Radio.
try to figure out how to blow them up or burn them, or
I think I have a feeling that once they get a little bit closer to Alexandria, the radios will start working again for them. And,
yeah,
that's when Maggie and Aaron will tell them, "Hey, there's a tunnel,
could be
but you're gonna have to fight your way to it."
right. And stash the truck somewhere because we need that for a plan.
And if they have to use one RPG to take out a small group around the tunnel, that's okay because there was still like.
I would still love to see an RPG.
see
Anything.
them going.
God, see, and that's the thing is that it's not even the RPG. It's not the explosion. It's the blowing up and just the of the body parts flying everywhere.
Imagine Abraham shooting it into a group of them, and then you got the people, everybody inside of Alexandria just standing there, and all of a sudden it's raining.
Like a finger falls down on somebody's shoulder.
Men in explosion.
See, and I'm not usually like that, but I just like the concept of blowing up zombies. Just because they're already so... They're falling apart already, so you know they just splatter and blow. It's fantastic.
Ew.
So anyway, did we miss anything from the episode? I think that's it. It was just basically it was Daryl and Sasha and Abraham and Sasha.
I was trying to stay awake during the episode. It wasn't working too well.
Well, I gotta say, like I said, it wasn't as bad as Morgan's episode. That was really backstory. That's for the fans. That's for the die-hard fans. You get some episodes like the Quarry episode that were for anybody to watch because it's action, it's moving, and you're like, oh god, what's gonna happen?
We didn't talk about the guy getting his arm chopped off.
Which was
We started to mention it with using the walkers as bait.
Yeah. Well, obviously, somebody else has discovered what I like to call the Herschel method, which is if you can get the body part off before the blood gets poisoned, you're good. And apparently, it's well known amongst their group, so much so that he. Now, and here's the other part that leads to the saviors, at least as far as I read, was that the guy says, "Oh shit, Wade, something like that," which could be. I think Wade is one of the names of the savior characters. I got bit, and they just immediately walk over. They wrap up his arm, and they say, "All right, bite down." Shunk, take the arm off.
Just walk it off.
Yeah, and then but they treat it like it's nothing. It's just like, okay, you got bit. We got to take the arm, and then take the watch. They take the watch off. Take the watch off the arm and give it to him, which is great. But it's,
Did he give it to him? It didn't look like he gave it to him.
yeah, no, they took it off and he hands it to him, and then the guy like walks off, but they just like dump the arm off into the thing. It's just the thing that I think I love about this show is it's so immersive that if you're in that group, if you're living in that world, that's part of it. If you get bit in the chest, you're out of luck. But you get bit in the hand, chop the fucking hand off, take it away. Seal it up as best you can, and then you're going to make it as best you can in the world from there, without one hand.
You just gave me a thought for the mid-season finale.
What's that?
What if Rick gets bit in his hand right at the end of the episode?
Get that, and maybe it was a preview with the hand wrapped up, and they take the hand off? Well, I guess we'll see. So, any closing thoughts? Any looking at the rest of the season?
I think it's about to really... By the end of next week's episode... I think we'll be back. It'll be maybe the second half of the episode, getting back into the high gear, so that they can set up a huge mid-season finale,
right,
and piss us off for 2 months.
Big cliffhanger, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you think everybody gets back inside by the end of episode 7?
Maybe.
Because, I mean, the question is, what is the mid-season climax? Is it, we need to get them inside, or is it the zombies are getting inside, or is it the battle?
Somebody hits Abraham while he's trying to shoot the group of walkers with the RPG, and it blows off a portion of Alexandra's wall.
Oh, God. Okay. That's your call?
That's not my call. It would be
that would
funny
be good.
and ironic.
And then it's like, oh, shit, now we have to run. So, yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we will. We'll have to see what happens, everybody. We will, as always, be bringing you a bonus episode of Dirty Shore Underground next week. So make sure you stay tuned for that for season 6, episode 7 of The Walking Dead. You can find me online at Robert N. Cheek at all your social networks. RobertNCheek.com. You can find links to all of my stuff, including the links to my books on Amazon, findingthefuture.us, and otheanthem.com. Links are available there. New episodes of that podcast every Tuesday. And make sure you check out DirtyShoreUnderground.com for new episodes of this podcast on Thursday. We'd like to thank everybody who joined us. We didn't get any comments except for from Karina. But you can join us and watch live on YouTube at youtube.com/c/DirtyShoreUG-OTA.
Twitter and Facebook is Dirty Shore UG. One last tidbit. Anybody that watched Into the Badlands last night will have heard a familiar song from The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Season 4, if I remember correctly. Good song.
And Into the Badlands, I mean, it's worthwhile to watch Into the Badlands. I'm now DVRing basically everything between 9 and midnight on AMC.
The martial arts in it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. I mean, we can get into that. We should probably maybe do a full episode about Into the Badlands just as a series. But I'm loving it. It's fantastic. Some things I don't like, but AMC is pumping out great programming. You can't. They might be the best network on TV right now.
Yeah. So maybe next week after we do our Walking Dead review, maybe we'll get into a little bit of Into the Badlands.
Yeah, that sounds good. Depending on how crazy crazy it is. If Glenn comes back, we might have too much to talk about. Who knows?
2 hours of. Told you, Glenn's not.
Y'all didn't do the Black X.
We'll do.
We keep forgetting.
We'll
to
do that
podcast.
for the full podcast.
There we go.
Because we're doing a double this week, so.
Whew. All right, so that's it for us now. Make sure you check out the new episode on Thursday. Have a great week, everybody.
Good night.
What the fuck?
You didn't hear her? Shut up, guys. I'm trying to watch a movie.
Is that what she was saying? I didn't hear that, no.